Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the Inside Scoop. My name is Neil Crawford. I'm your host and also the founder of Anytime Soccer Training. If you're not familiar with the Inside Scoop, it's a podcast dedicated to helping parents learn about the soccer pathways that would be available to their child if they lived in another city around the world. And today we're headed to the central part of Europe, to the Czech Republic. And I have a wonderful and fascinating guest who's going to give us some insight on youth soccer and how youth soccer is set up and his own personal experiences in the Czech Republic. He's played and now he's coaching as well. And that's how we met. And I thought he'd be a wonderful, wonderful guest for the show. Introduce yourself, Karel Vlasak. Did I say it right?
Yeah, that's right. It's Karel Vlasak in our language. Yeah. Nice to meet you, Neil. I'm 31 years old and I'm a youth football coach, or soccer, as you say. Sorry, I shall say soccer today, not football. And I'm a youth soccer coach in the Czech Republic. We're based in the middle of Europe. And my home country, my hometown is like 30 minutes away from our capital, Prague. So my club is like a smaller one. And I've been a head coach of the all youth teams for 6 years now.
Okay. All right. And so we're going to jump into all of that. So what we're going to do is take it from the top and just work our way down. Okay.
Okay.
So share a little bit more about your personal experience so our audience has your personal experience with soccer so that our audience has some perspective. Did you play? When did you start playing? What was your childhood like? Did you play grassroots all the way to how far you went? And then how did you transition into coaching?
Yeah, okay. So I started playing in my neighborhood like when I was 7 years old, like that, my first grade at the elementary school. And I joined our local club here, and I played all the way through my 20s. Here when I went from how to say, from the youngster team to the adult team, and I start refreshing. Well, I've been playing soccer for, I don't know, 15 years, and my skills are really not good. And I started attending university. There's been less time for my own playing, but at the same time I started to coach young boys, and that was because my brother, he's 7 years younger than me. He was in the under 15 team of our club. So I started coaching this under 15 team, and it was like 10 years ago. And from that, I've been coaching, I think, all the categories from under 6, so the little ones, up to under 17. And here
Okay.
I am now.
Okay. Great. So the way this show works is we try our best to compare the soccer youth structure and some of the details in your country to
Mhm.
America.
Okay.
I'm going to give a very quick overview of how soccer is set up in the youth soccer is set up in the States, but I'm more so giving that perspective so that you can hear it. And then I want you to use that same framework to answer how soccer is set up in the Czech Republic, especially in your town. And I'm going to use a fictitious scenario where, let's say that you had a 10-year-old that was moving, or a young child, or even a baby that was moving to the States. And you
Mhm.
called me and said, Neil, my child is moving to Cary, North Carolina, and I want them to play soccer. What options are available? Now, our audience is familiar with these, so I'm going to breeze through them really quickly, but feel free to ask me questions, cut me off, or ask for clarifications.
Okay.
So, big picture, if you moved to my town and wanted to get involved in soccer, then I would tell you these are your broad options. Okay.
Uh,
Number one, we divide soccer into these sort of categories. First, there are especially at the very young ages, and this is a relatively small category, but it exists. They're private franchises, just private operators, just like any other business that offers some kind of soccer program for kids. It's best to think of them as a hybrid between an activity, like you take them rock climbing, and soccer. These are private companies, franchises who say, you know what, there's nothing for little 2-year-olds, nothing for 4-year-olds, nothing for 5-year-olds. Sign your kid up. It's not a team normally, it's just some kind of soccer activity. That's one way if they're really young. Then the next way, and one more thing, in those private entities, also some of them have programs for kids that are slightly older, again, for parents who just want to drop their kid off, have an activity, and they're done. And most of them offer different sports as well. Soccer is just one of them. Okay. Then the next big category for us is what we call recreational soccer, which is close to your grassroots. Most parents start their kids off in recreational. It's just fun. The parent is going to volunteer to coach. It's normally one practice a week and a game. It's not serious. That's the one where you see the little kid with the shin guards outside of their socks. They're given a t-shirt. The mom brings snacks. The team mom brings snacks, or the team dad brings snacks. There's no real referee at the younger ages. It's just fun.
Okay, may I have a question? If these categories are designed for all the ages, for all the age categories, or is it just for the youngest ones?
So it's all the age categories, in that recreational goes all the way up to adults.
Okay.
But it's typically volunteer coach, relatively inexpensive, 1 day a week of training, and you and I'm using the word training very loosely. It's training, but it's kind of like volunteer coach, and then they play a game on the weekend, and the season is relatively short. But for the adults, it's also, we don't call it recreational, but it's also recreational. But the way it works for adults is they just they have a league, and then they just get their friends to sign up, and then they just form a team and play in the league, and they probably would not practice. But it's a slightly different than how definitely in the UK, probably in Czech, they're not clubs that people just play for all the way up into adulthood, like Sunday League. They're not clubs like that. These recreational leagues are organized and run by the municipality.
Okay.
They are also run by soccer clubs who create recreational programming. And they create that recreational programming for a number of reasons. Number one, it generates a revenue for them because it's a good entry point. And then it helps them recruit the players out of the recreational program that are in their program. Okay, so that's recreational, goes all the way up. And then another big category for us is what we call club soccer. So club soccer is where you pay a hefty fee normally. You normally get a paid coach who normally has some sort of license and experience. Maybe they had a bit of playing experience, they have some coaching experience. And you train normally, even at the youngest age groups, 3 times a week, maybe 2, depending on the situation. But in my area, it'd be very unlikely not to train 3 days a week, or 2 and an optional one. And you play on the weekend, and the seasons can be anywhere from 8 to 10 months. And the focus there is on what we would say is development. So no one is putting their kid in a club environment for the most part without explicitly wanting them to become better soccer players, not just have fun. Clubs are all run by club soccer, is what we call it, are run by our clubs. Now, some of the clubs have professional teams, but most of the clubs don't. Okay. And then another area that we have is school soccer. So once you get to the equivalent of 12, and this is in general, 12 years old, you are eligible to play school soccer. That's where you play for your team and you play against other schools. But in the States, in general, school soccer is not considered to be as high a level as club soccer for a number of reasons. Club soccer, they're training year round, blah, blah, blah. And then finally, we have, I'm going to call it other. We got recreational league, not recreational leagues, futsal leagues. We have indoor leagues you can sign up for. We have, I'm going to call them, for lack of a better term, ethnic leagues. So our Hispanic community will create leagues and they play with each other. That's big. My son's playing that. So that's what I would call other. Now, within club soccer, remember I said that some of the clubs are run by professional teams. The expectation is if you do well, you can go through the ranks. With our MLS clubs, if you do well and you get through the ranks and you get selected, that's where you get the fully funded free academy experience. But it's unique than, say, even in London, I can speak for London, they don't sign you at 8 years old for free and try to develop you in that way. Normally you playing pay to play until you're old enough to join an MLS club at about 13 or 14, and that's when they pay for you.
Yeah.
So in summary, if you moved here, we have these independent operators like franchises, small businesses. They offer soccer services. That's relatively small. Then we have recreational that's run by the municipality as well as the soccer clubs. That's a kickabout, parent, coach, having a blast. Maybe 8-week season, pretty cheap. Then we have club soccer where you do 3 days a week of training, even more as you get older, with an experienced coach. They paying you this paid, and that's pretty expensive. So when you hear people say U.S. soccer in America is expensive, they're typically talking about that. And then we have.
Sorry, Neil. Can you give me some comparison? How expensive is it? What does it cost you to play in this club?
Yeah, so
just generally.
Now so it varies by region.
Yeah.
Okay. But you $2,500 US dollars, and you still got to pay for a lot of travel stuff
per year.
Per year, per child. Yeah. And it's still a lot of travel.
Okay.
And that's kind of on the mid range. You have some clubs that have more volunteers and they'll bring the price down. And then you have some clubs that are in expensive areas and it could be as much, they're putting as much as all in 5,000 US dollars.
Oh.
Right. I have my neighbor's son, not my neighbor. They're not my neighbor. They go to school with my son, my younger one, and they're twins. And they play a league. They play in a program called Challenge, which is in between rec and club. So it's a little bit more serious, but not like club.
Okay.
And they are only 11. And they were astutely aware. They said, well, the reason we're not going to play club soccer is because it would cost my parents between $10,000 and $15,000 a year for the both of us, because there's a lot of travel involved. There's a lot of other expenses in addition to the tuition.
Yeah.
So you got that. All right. So, and then finally you have these other services where like futsal or indoor, blah, blah, blah. And then you obviously have places where you can train and play. So I gave you a big picture. You can jump in whenever you want. Just so now I moved to the Czech Republic. I moved to your town. What's the name of your town again?
My town is called Mělník.
Okay, Munich. And the only caveat I'm going to add is if your town is like way different than, say, a big city, make us understand that as well. But other than that, just tell us about I moved to your town or I moved to somewhere that you're familiar with in the Czech Republic. I want to play soccer at the various different ages. What is available for my child?
Okay. So first, just a brief overview about our country to have something. we are just a small nation. We've got like 10 million inhabitants together, the Czech Republic altogether. Now, my city, Mělník, it's a small city, like 20,000 inhabitants, but it's like near our capital, Prague, which is about 1.5 million. So it is our biggest city in our country. Now, if you move here, the good point for you if you want to play football, soccer, if you want to play soccer.
You can say football. Our guests are sophisticated enough.
Yeah. About football, we don't play football. We don't play football here. It's not based in our country. I think there are like 3 or 4 clubs in the whole country. But the soccer, it's our national sport. The most people play soccer here. Like from 10 million inhabitants, like I think 500,000 are registered players. Yeah, when you count adults and then the children together. Now, you move in our city, and it's quite different from what you told me before about your country. It was quite interesting, and thank you for that. And well, our soccer is like, there is a football association of Czech Republic, and this association, every club here must be a member of this association, and that means that also all the clubs play at the same like system of football system. And well, you started with the like what did you say, the businesses small. You can sign your child into like what's the word,
like
private,
a franchise.
some private lessons. Yeah, okay. Well, it's not here. We didn't have this option. Me personally, I'm starting this from the next season. I'm developing and funding a business that will work like this. Okay, so I'll offer for the children of different ages, I'll offer them like hobby trainings, and I say like elite trainings. But it's not normal. In our city, there is no other option for this. There would be some options in Prague, but let's say Prague, our capital, it's like in many aspects it's like a different country. It's much different from the rest of the country. Well, so normally there is not a possibility to choose a private lessons here. Then where can you go? There are just football clubs. It's not called recreational football. All of them are just clubs. And I say you need to find out which club is the big one, where there are the licensed coaches and so on, and which one is not just a village recreational one. There are really big differences between 2 clubs, but you won't see them on the first sight. If you go through some list of clubs, you will not find from it which club you want to choose, because you want to find out if they train once a week or 3 times a week. And well, you would have to go have a call with the director or with the coach, or just visit the club and see if it's okay for you. There are just really big differences between these clubs. Okay.
All right. So let me clarify something too.
Okay.
So our football association is called U.S. Soccer. Mm-hmm. It is complicated. I'm not going to go to the details, but they are the governing body for our clubs, and they help create some of the leagues, but it's not a unified pyramid like it probably is in the Czech Republic. And then we have other organizations that almost like licensing agents that act almost like U.S. Soccer, and they create leagues and stuff as well. So we don't have one unified pyramid, because our pyramid is also shaped by commercial interest. It's a little bit different. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, going back to your thing. All right, I get there. I want my child to play soccer. You're saying all the clubs are registered with the FA, and they could play at the same level, but offer different levels of service.
Correct. And in the youngest age, like up to under 11, they all play in the same level, based on the district where they are based on. So you can meet, let's say you are playing in the smallest village and you can play against the big town club. And it results in, when they play against each other, there could be a result like 35 against 0. No problem. That's quite a big problem of this organization.
But do they have quote unquote levels of grassroots? So I come there and I say my son is just an absolute beginner, and where should I take him? Would you say, oh, if that's the case, you can go to this club, but they have 3 different teams, or how does that work?
No. Normally there will be just one team that integrates all the levels from the beginners to the advanced. And there are just a few clubs on a high level that would tell you, you come with your son, they see him playing, and they say, oh, sorry, we are a higher level club. First you need to go to the smaller club, and then you can come after half a year, 1 year, and you can try again. But these are just, I don't know, it's 1% of all the clubs that really say, okay, we choose who will play for us. And normally in my team, you can see here the logo, it's my previous team based here in Mielnik. We've got one team under 9, and there are integrated together the beginners and the advanced ones. Because if you start like 4 years old and now you are 9, of course you will be on a much higher level than the one who comes at 9 and starts with the soccer. But we cannot help. We've got just this one team, and well, that's it.
But what happens if more kids want to play for that team than you guys have space for? What happens then?
Normally there is some limit. Okay, we've got in my teams we had a limit like for 30 children per one team. Based on that we've got enough coaches, because like for 30 children I need to have 4 coaches in a team. Well, and normally it's okay like this.
And so then the 31st and above kid, you tell them to go to another club?
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't necessarily add. So in America, what will happen in that situation typically is they'll say, okay, well, we'll just hire more coaches. You get what I'm saying? We'll bring in more coaches. Now I know you have, as long as they have the field space, because remember, for club, they're charging the parents, so they'll just add more coaches. But in your case, you're not going to add more coaches typically.
We could, but I don't think many clubs really do that. It's an obvious solution for this, but I don't think it's normal. Normally, to be a coach, to call yourself a coach, you need to have a license here. In a club like was ours, the coaches were volunteers, almost 100%. They were volunteers, but at the same time, they were obliged to have some license. So to have a number of coaches, it's quite difficult for us, because they are not paid, but at the same time, they need to be somehow educated. So it's not easy to gain more and more coaches. It's not so attractive for the dads, for the parents, as you are. It's not attractive for them to join the club and help.
Yeah, so let's drill down on this. I get there, I want to play soccer. What is the range of options I have? It sounds like you're going to play for a club, and you're going to be in grassroots at first. But it sounds like, is it a situation where some grassroots clubs may train once a week, but I can find another one that trains 3 times a week? Is that a fair? That's a fair statement.
Yeah, that's it. That's correct.
But they would still play in the same league.
Yes, that's correct. If you are up to under 11.
Okay, let's just do it under 11 first. And then, but I'm making a mental note, under 11. You're going to play in the same league at under 11.
Yeah.
Now, and if you're the team that trains 3 days a week and you're winning by 35-0, and you're playing under 11, there is no league. They don't call it like the elite or the special league that you play against other teams like yourself, or you just play in the same league with everybody else?
Yeah, you play in the same league that's organized by FA. But of course, from obvious reasons, these like higher level clubs, they organize their friendlies against each other to have like equal opponents.
Okay. And I want to really, really harp on this, okay? I really want to be clear. So in the club world in America, we have leagues. They can make their own leagues, but we also have, I guess you'd say, levels. So I don't know them that well, but it could be something so that you understand. Gold, silver, platinum, blah, blah, blah. These are levels. Okay. And then the club puts their team into the level based on how the club feels like they can play. And you're telling me y'all don't necessarily do that at under 11 and below.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
It's based just on if okay. I have to clarify it. If there are enough coaches in different clubs that are somehow that want to cooperate, okay. If they want to cooperate, it was in our case, we wanted to cooperate between each others, between the clubs. So we created these levels within the system that was created by FA. So within the system, we created our golden, platinum, and silver, and so on leagues. But it's not necessarily done, and very often it's a very often situation that the coaches do not cooperate, and then there is a situation like that, 35-0, and some of them are happy. So it's not based on the FA direction. It's just the coaches who decides this.
I understand that. Now, so in the States, it's soccer in this regard for club is best to think of it as a product and service that you're selling to the parent. So if you train 2 days a week or 1 day a week or whatever, or 3 days a week, they're going to publish that and they're going to be super clear. Is it like that? Because if I move there and I want my child to play for different, play grassroots, is it super clear to me if I ask, is it going to be like this every year that this club trains once a week, this club trains 3 times a week, or is it kind of based on the coach?
No, it would not be clear at all to you. If you move here, I think you will spend first month of your stay here to find out which club is the best for you, because you will not find it, and it would depend on the coach.
It would depend on the coach.
Yeah, and there are just a small number of clubs. We were one of them, but we were like one of 100, and we said, okay, these categories train 2 times a week. That's our under 7 team and the girls team. They train 2 times a week. And all the other teams, under 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and so on, they train like 3 times a week. And that's it. And in our club, it was super clear. And that's why we got a lot of children, and we were successful. But it's not normal. It's one out of 100. It's not we don't see soccer like a business. It's not a business, and it's super cheap. That was why I asked you what was the price to play in the club. Here, if you played in our club where we trained 3 times a week, you paid 5,000 Czech crowns, which is something like $200 per year for that service.
Okay.
So,
keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Okay.
Oh, so you're going to pay about $200 per year. Now let's define year. How long is the season?
The season starts mid-August. In 2 weeks, the season starts like that. The training starts here. The official matches starts in the beginning of September normally.
Yes. And so what I'm getting at is how much does that $200 get you? The equivalent $200.
Yeah,
so
much,
mid-August until when?
Until the end of June
of the following year. And then do you take any quote unquote winter break or month off, or is it just continuous?
No, normally it's like a small break around Christmas, like 2 weeks. You stop playing like in the middle of December and start again in the beginning of January.
All right. So you got a full year, $200. This is that under 11 grassroots.
It's like 10 months. I think it's 10 months together.
And that's similar to us. Normally it's about a 10-month season with all these standard breaks. Take some time off in the summer too. Okay. And how much, roughly speaking, are the coaches? Do you classify the coaches as paid coaches or more volunteers?
Well, how to say this? In my opinion, they are in our level, excluding the highest level clubs. Normally, these highest level to have something what I'm calling higher level clubs. These are the ones that are professional in a adult league, you know. And in our neighborhood, there are like 100 kilometers from my town. There are like 6 of them in Prague, 7, 8, like 10 of these clubs, but it's 100 kilometers from my town. Yeah. And all the other clubs, I think there are 95% of the coaches are volunteers, which means they are gaining some reward, like $100 a month, something like that. It's just to have something because they need to commute for the trainings and so on, but they are volunteers.
All right, now in the $200, I got 2 more questions, and then I'm gonna dig into the coaches. The $200 though, do your parents perceive that as being expensive, or do they see that as, how do they perceive that cost, so I can understand?
Yeah, I think they perceive it. No, I don't think. I'm sure they perceive it like very cheap, because the football is like soccer. Sorry, soccer is historically like the cheapest option to play. In our country, ice hockey is very popular, and tennis is also very popular, and the fees for these 2 sports are much higher than for soccer. So the soccer is regarded here like a very cheap sport.
Okay, now you're volunteer coaching, and you're saying the coaches, do they have to have a license?
They should have a license. Yes, we've got here like 4 levels of licensing, starting at license C, called license C, B, A, and the pro. And to gain a C license, the lowest one, you need to spend 1 week of what's the word? 1 week.
All right,
of
so you
education.
spend 1 week of training to get your C, and then the next highest license is B?
Yes.
And how long do you have to spend to get that, roughly?
Yeah, I told it, but it's not 1 week, it's 1 weekend, 2 days, just 2 days to gain your
C.
for C. And I think it's 4 weekends, 8 days to gain B. And for gaining A, it's like, in my case, I've got an A license and it's been 20 days of training, like 5 blocks of 4 days.
Okay, so I understand that. Now, what is the typical profile of a coach? And what I mean is, are there kids typically playing? They're former footballers who just love coaching and want to give back? Are they attached to the club and they just look at this as, I'm just a member of this club and this is one of the things I do to support them? And finally, are they it could be all the above, by the way, aspiring coaches who want to coach at the professional level and use this as a stepping stone?
Yeah, I think basically there are 2 classes of the coaches. In small clubs and in the villages and so on, there are 100% parents, 100%. And there is no other option. No one would do that. So there are just parents. They've got their kids and they want to improve their kids because they want them to play soccer and they want to help them. Often there is a problem. Some of them they educate themselves, but some of them there is no, I think there is no pressure on them to improve themselves. Then the second part of coaches, they are like me, because I started coaching when I wanted to. Well, I knew I'm not good enough to play soccer like professionally, but I love soccer and I want to continue and help the others, and so I started coaching. I think that's it's more normal in bigger cities, bigger towns, where are bigger clubs, where not everyone is able to play professionally. So these young boys here, young adults here, start coaching to stay at the soccer and help these others. So these are like 2 basic groups, I think.
So what I'm really trying to drill in on is, if I end up going to a club, taking my under 11 child to a club that trains once a week, is that fee going to be a lot less than $200? Or it's going to be about $200 a year, but I'm only going to get 1 day a week of training?
Yeah, you in the smallest club on a village when you train once a week, you'll pay around, I don't know, 1,000 on 1,500 per year. That's like $50. So the range would be from $50 to $200 normally per year.
So, and then what about the full year? So you see how you guys go from September to June or whatever, August to June. Are there clubs? So in America, the recreational, they say, look, we're going to go 8 weeks. We're just having a kickabout for 8 weeks because the kids do other stuff. They don't want to be in soccer year round. Do y'all have the 8-week program?
No, there are not many clubs like that.
Okay.
And if there are, it's not from some, I know, business reasons. Okay, there is a 8 weeks program. You pay this for the program, and then in the spring you can join us again for another 8 years. It's not like that. It could be there, but from other reasons. The reason being, the coach is not a businessman. He don't want to gain money from this, but he's just a parent who wants some free time. So he'll train from August to, I don't know, October, and then, sorry, I need some time for my family. And we will get back to the soccer in spring on March. It could happen, yeah, but it's not so often.
Okay, so now let's fast forward. We're going to move along. After you get past U11. What is
Yeah.
the material differences, if any?
Well, the difference is basically in now there are different levels of the leagues you can play at. I think there are 5 levels, and from under 16 up, there is also a national level. You can play on a national whole country level. This is the highest one, and together there are like 5 different levels. The lowest one is based on a district, like a small area. Then you can promote to well, I don't know what's the English word, district, and the bigger one, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like national. We have that kind of thing.
Yeah, and then there is a national level. There are like 5 levels. That's the main difference. And well, you can find out more easily which club is like meant to be a professional in the future, which can prepare you to be a professional, and which is like a recreational one.
Okay, so you can find now. What is the range of training days I could get at that age? I bring my kid. He's 13 years old. What is the range of training clubs? Are there some that only going to offer one, or is that unheard of? And are there some that are going to offer as much as 4, or maybe even 5? What's the range of training days you can get?
You say you are 13 now.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
I'm using 13 as an example, and you're not a pro academy, by the way. So you're still grassroots. What's the range of training days I can get?
Yeah, if you are grassroots, I think the range will be between 2 or 3 trainings a week. If you are an academy, you can move up to 5 trainings a week.
Now, the coaches, what will be the profile of those coaches? Will they be similar to what you described, the same type of profile, the 2 categories that you described before, or will it be a little different?
We are still talking about just about the grassroots category.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, they will be completely the same because they will be the same person. They start with their child at 6, and then they continue with him up to 15, 16.
All right. So now talk to us about the academy system. I bring over my child. I always like joking. And my child is the Messi. My child is Neymar. You see my child at 8 years old and you're like, wow, I've never seen us get kids so technical and so much vision. What's going to happen? And I'm saying that obviously to joke around, but I'm saying let's control for skill. They are the best thing since sliced bread, and they're 8 years old. In London, let me just go over. In London, the scouts would be on them like a hawk. They would see him and they would take him and put him into an academy. Or the coach would call the clubs because they're all buddies and say, I got somebody you need to see. In America, unfortunately, you're just going to be playing. You're going to play for your club. You're going to pay the same amount of money. You're just going to be really good. And it's not until you become 13 that the MLS academies will then take you. You'll play at a high level, but unfortunately, you're still going to pay. And you're still going to, in general, and you're still going to do the same stuff as a kid who just is not that good. What happens in the Czech Republic? You're the next thing since Messi and you're 8 years old.
Well, the best thing you can do is to inscribe him to find a club, to have a look at the table in the age of 13, 14, 15, and bring the child to the training of the club, which is like the academy, which is the best one. Okay, then he can join if he's good enough. They take him into the training process, and in 8 years he starts in their under-8 team, and then he promotes under 9, 10, 11, so on, and he remains in the structure of this good club. If you bring your child into a local grassroots club, your chance to get up would be not as good because the scouting is not on a high level here, and there is a big chance that you will if you personally you don't bring the kid into the academy, there's a big chance that you will not get there.
But, and I'm going to use London as an example. You as the parent can't, it's a little bit changing, but you can't bring your child to the academy. They have to find you. It's a little different. They have these at the very young ages, these opportunities for you to kind of play so they can kind of see you. But in general, you're scouted, not bring them to it.
So
but in your, how's it work?
Yeah, it's vice versa. The scouting, well, there are like 3-4 the best teams in the country that are scouting. Okay, there is Slavia Prague, Sparta Prague. They play on a European level. They're adult teams, professional. So I think these two teams really have scouting, and they really scout the teams around, but the others not. So if you wanna get there to the professional level, you need to bring your child here. You need to go.
And the clubs will be receptive to that. The professional club will say, "Yeah, we'll have a look."
Yeah, and they will invite you on training, almost 100%. They say, "Okay, come here, we'll have a look, and then we'll see, and we'll tell you if you are good enough or not."
And then do those academies start at the young ages like U8 as well?
Yeah, they start like under 7.
Okay, and people just it'll be a combination of referrals as well as people kids in the community, and they'll start filtering out who are the best talents they want to develop. Yeah. And I want to be clear, this is not grassroots, this is the academy.
Yeah, this is the academy, and they've got their under 7 teams also.
Now, in the academy, are the coaches paid?
But officially, just officially, you will not. I cannot tell which club is an academy and which not. It's not like officially stated here. They're all the same clubs on all the same level, but you know, to have some, you know, you just need to know the clubs to tell which one is like academy and which one not. It's not stated anywhere.
Well, yeah, but hold on now. So, yeah, but hold on. Let me go back to America. We have this category of clubs.
Yes.
And the quality of the clubs and the quality of the coaching can vary pretty dramatically.
Yeah.
But it's but you do know 100% which clubs are attached to a professional team. But you're saying, wouldn't that be the case with you guys, that it will be a clear line between who is academy teams versus grassroots?
Yes, there is not a clear line.
All right, I'm going to harp on this one more time because I like to be really clear, because when you're gone, I ain't going to talk to you until I try to. In London, and I'm going to use them as another example. Arsenal does not have a club team. If you play for the Arsenal, you're in their academy with the stated goal of turning you into a professional soccer player.
Yeah.
Now, all right, so I just use one example with America. You can pay to be at a club, you get some training, the skill, it can vary what you get. But some of those clubs that you're paying to be a part of actually do have a professional team that you could graduate to. I use London as an example to say, nope, you're not playing. Man City, only person playing for Man City, basically, are kids to a part of their professional academy. And the reason I say basically is because they have all these little programs, but in general, it's the kids who are going to go to their academy. Everybody knows it. Now that I said that, I want to be real clear. I come to Czech Republic and I say, Dad, I'm being recruited by this club. You're telling me you don't know for a fact, I won't know for a fact if it's an academy or not?
Yeah, I think so. You are 100% sure if you bring your kid to Sparta Prague or Slavia Prague, you are 100% sure that they will do their best to make a professional from you. Okay? These are two clubs you are 100% sure. Then there are other clubs. You of course, everyone knows which clubs play in the first division, like the professional league. Okay? So these clubs, I think you can call them academies. There are, in our country, there are 32 professional teams. Like first two levels are professional here. So there are 32 professional teams, and I think you could call you could call that academy if you want. But I think it doesn't mean I think many of these clubs do not have such a good academies to bring professional footballers out of them. That's all.
Now I totally get it. And we have a tiny bit of that here, but I totally get it.
Yeah.
Totally understand what you're saying. So I'm going to keep using the same examples. In the UK, if you sign with Arsenal, the training, the contact hours, the professionalism of the coaches, the resources are going to be light years ahead of what you would get at your grassroots club.
Yeah.
But you're basically saying it's not so crystal clear in the Czech Republic across the board, because you don't just have the infrastructure from the club level all the way down, professional club level all the way down, to make that sort of difference.
Yeah, I think out of these 32 clubs that are called professional, I think like half of them, I can say, they could offer a really professional background on the youth level. Okay.
Now, let's deal with the half that can for a second. Are their coaches paid enough for it to be like a part-time job or full-time job?
I think from under 13 up, I think I've never coached on this level, so I'm just guessing. It's not 100% from me, this answer, but I think from under 13 up, it would be like a full-time job, and from under 13 down, that would be like a part-time job. Most of them, the part of their job is in the football club, soccer club, and the other half is at school, like a physical education teacher or something like that.
All right. So now I think we're about to wrap it up. So now let's just say this scenario. You ready?
Yeah.
I come to your country. I'm a millionaire. Money is no object.
Okay.
And I see the training that the kids are receiving at, what is your top club that you just named, like the top professional club?
It's Sparta Prague.
Okay. So I see the training that the kids are receiving at Sparta Prague. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, I want that for my child. But my child is not good enough to play at Sparta Prague at the moment. And they're not being scouted. They're just not.
Yeah.
But I say, I want that. I want the paid coach. I want the contact hours. You know, I want them to play in the competitive league. I want them to have the nice uniforms. I want all of that.
Yeah.
What are you going to, and I come to you and say, I got the money, so it doesn't matter. I just want to pay for it. What are my options? And I know it's a weird question, but what are you going to tell me my options are?
The best option is to bring your kid into one of the partners club of Sparta Prague. There would be like 5 or 6 of them, all based in Prague, like smaller clubs. And here you can be scouted because they are partner clubs. They like also change coaches between each others. So if you put your child into one of these 5 or 6 partners club, there is good chance that you will receive good training, and you'll have the chance to get to the Sparta one day.
And in those partner clubs, will I get the same amount of contact hours?
You mean like hours of training? No, no. It will be less. It will be less than it's in Sparta. I can say in the partners club you can train like 3 or 4 times a week, and in Sparta it will be like fully professional.
Okay. So now when we start thinking about the cost, and you're going to have a view on this, you may or may not know. And let's talk about your club that has the volunteers. What about the cost of the field? How are the fields financed? And do you have access to the same training fields? Because that's also going to be a cost that I'm thinking, how do you offer it cheaply if you have the field cost?
Normally, every club here has got its own field. We in Jelnik, we've got 2 grass fields. The problem here in my city was in the winter. We've got temperatures like around 0 degrees Celsius here. I think you use Fahrenheit. So. Yeah. About 0. There is snow. But of course, you cannot train on the grass in the conditions like that. So a lot of clubs have problems with their training in the winter. They usually use some indoor options like some gyms and so on. But what was the question? Sorry.
So I was thinking about when we think about comparing the cost of soccer in the States to the soccer in the rest of the world, and then in this case, Czech Republic, you start thinking about 3 or 4 things. Number one, the number of contact hours.
Yeah.
And you've explained that can range from 1 day a week to 3 to 3.
Yeah. Yeah.
The second thing you think about, okay, is how much does it cost to pay the coaches? And you've explained that they get a modest stipend, but nothing that would be considered a pay. And they're volunteers. Okay.
Yes.
Then the next thing you have to factor in is, okay, well, what about the other operating costs? And one big one is the fields. But it sounds like, and I'm going to ad lib here, and then you tell me, that the clubs, because they're so old, they own their fields already. So that's a big cost that they don't have to absorb, right?
Yes, that's right. And if they really need to use some indoors equipment that is not yours, then if they need to hire it, then it's often from the money that comes from the municipalities.
Well, that was going to be my next question. So you remember I told you we have recreational, and then a lot of times it's run by the municipalities. One of the reasons that it's recreational is cheap, besides the fact that the parents are volunteers and the contact hours are less, is the fields are owned and operated by the municipality, right? So now, so I got 2 questions. How much are the municipalities helping your football clubs from a financial perspective, or giving you things, what we call in kind, like space, not money, but things? And then how much of the football association is giving you any money whatsoever?
Well, the fund from a municipality, it depends on every municipality. It's different in each town, but in our town, it was based on the number of children you've got registered in your club. Both the money from municipality and from the association. And also you've got like three ways where the money come from. It's the municipality, first way. It's the Ministry of Sport, second way, like a national sport agency or something like that, and the football association. And all these 3 funds are based on how many children do you have registered in your club. So there is some unit money. Let's say for 1 child, you get how much? You get $50 per year. Okay, so if we had 250 children registered in our club, we gained the money for it from municipality, ministry, and the football association. But they do not provide any material to us, just money.
And would you characterize that money as absolutely essential for your operations?
Yes. Well, it's like, how many? I think it's like 60 to 80% of the budget yearly.
Okay.
The money gained from the players is just a smaller part.
That makes sense. Now, all right, here's the fire round of questions. What about the school system? Do the kids play for their schools? How is that perceived?
No, there is no school system. They do not play for the school, and there are no soccer trainings and anything like that. There is no school system.
Really?
Yeah.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Okay.
Nowhere.
Now,
nowhere.
what about the role of futsal? Do they play futsal?
Well, they what's the word? Like, some of the children play futsal forcibly. They're forced to play futsal because in the winter they cannot play football. They are still in their club, but they cannot play outside. So they go inside into the what's the word? Gym. It's not a gym. Like indoor facilities, and they play futsal here instead of football.
Okay, but do your coaches and your parents, and I guess players to a much lesser extent, view futsal as a important developmental tool, or are they just playing it because of the conditions, or a little bit
just
of both?
Because of the conditions? There are not many futsal clubs, and if so, they are basically connected to the football club. But there are not like separate futsal clubs. Not many of them.
Okay, so moving right along. University, can you play? You know how in America we have all the American sports in the unis? Is that a thing in the Czech Republic for soccer?
No, absolutely not.
Seriously?
Yeah.
You don't play for your uni. You can't just play for your uni.
No.
Okay. Now, moving right along. How does it work? What's the earliest a player can be, to your memory, can be signed to a professional contract?
Wow. I don't know. Now it's about 15. I think the threshold is 15 years old.
All right. So I think now, speed round. What about multiple sports?
It's difficult.
So how would you characterize? So in America, it's not uncommon for a kid who is really into sports to play different ones at a relatively competitive level. That's not uncommon. So that was actually how it always was until relatively recently, where you played all baseball, basketball, football. That's just our culture. In the Czech Republic, how would you describe it?
I think it's possible up to under 13. Up to under 13, there are not so many trainings in the club level in all the sports. So I think it would be possible for a talented one to play like two sports on a high level.
But do they do it? Do they do that? Is that common?
Not many of them. I don't think so.
And how do you think the coaches would perceive it if you said, listen, on Tuesdays, I know we have soccer training, but I need to play basketball. How do you think the coaches would perceive that culturally?
Well, it depends. It would be very, very different between the coaches. Me personally, I would what's the word? Encourage children to do that, to do two or more sports. But there are some coaches who want to focus fully on their sport, and
all right.
So I cannot say generally.
So the final big picture question, and then we'll break it all the way down to the last little piece. Wasn't it Czech Republic that published this document that a lot of people in Europe reference, especially skills type people? They published this document that said these are like X amount of skills you need to have mastered their whole unified developmental plan. Didn't the Czech Republic publish the FA publish a big document like that? Do you recall
What?
that? For their national development program to say, hey, this is what you need to do as a footballer. Do you remember anything like that? I'm gonna Google it while I talk to you. It was
you mean that there in our country that there was published like a big document that states what the coach shall do to make a footballer? Or
hold on 1 second. Hold on. I thought, and sorry if I'm messing it up. There was a big, hold on 1 second. I can't remember. I may have to ask you that one. I may have to ping you on that one. But I feel like the Czech Republic published this long list of skills and other attributes that a footballer needed to have at the various ages, and then use that as a way of helping get the coaches on board with the development plan at the various ages. And then other people, especially people who are in like the soccer skills industry, they tend to reference that to say, hey, look, one of the reasons why you guys have what we call punched above your weight in terms of playing really well despite your small population is because you focus on these individual techniques and these individual skills at these younger ages. But I could be mixing up countries. I could be mixing things up.
I think you mixed it up because it's a big theme here. We are still, well, last month our national team played on a Euro, and the big question here is why our players are not so technically able as the other players. And this discussion, it's like 10 years now, years and years, again and again. But I don't think there has been some like document that states what should the player.
You know what? I mixed it up. I'm getting mixed up with Croatia.
Yeah, it could be Croatia. And probably that's why Croatia players are really technically able and our players not.
Okay, so finish that story. So you guys didn't do as well, and now there's a referendum on how you need to develop players.
Yeah, it's going on and on for years, and there is no end to it now. I think the big clubs are developing their own programs and strategies to make a great player, but on the national level, I don't think so.
Now, and then the final question on this. So in the States, and they're getting a lot of their information from trends that are coming out of Spain, trends that come out of broader parts of Europe, and it's like a hodgepodge of playing styles that they're trying to push, but it kind of falls around this whole keeping the ball, trying to play possession, especially at those younger ages, making mistakes in the back. It doesn't matter as much because you're trying to develop.
Yeah.
And if I had to describe in general, if I talk to the average American coach in general, and this is a big generalization, this is what they would say is important. They would say, well, at the younger ages, it's important that every kid has a ball and they're working on their technical skills in game-like situations, some unopposed, but mainly it's part of the game in a fun environment, and they fall in love with the game. This is what they would say. Don't worry too much about tactics. As long as they have their ball, they're working on their technical skill, their creativity, they're being brave in the 1v1. They would say, you know, we really want to emphasize, we want our training sessions to be a bunch of small-sided games, 1v1, 2v2, 3v3. They would ideally like even the gaming formats to be a little smaller, not less kids, so that more kids can touch the ball. And then they would say as they get older, they can start putting this stuff together in larger formats. This is basically what they would say.
Mm-hmm.
And what they would say a practice would look like is a good practice basically would be, you know, some kind of fun warm up, maybe some tag, maybe some dribble tag here. Don't do a lot of unopposed technical work. That's best done at home. They would say then we're going to do a lot of 1v1s, 2v2s, 3v3s. Depending on the age, we may do some positional rondos. They would say this, positional rondos with some scoring opportunities. And then we might end with maybe we might do some technical stuff like passing, receiving, that kind of thing as a team, as individuals, passing, receiving drills. And then we're going to end with some scrimmages. And we might do a lot of constraint-based scrimmages. Well, you got to get the ball 3 touches or 3 passes, or you got to get the ball wide before you can attack it, this kind of thing. This is how they would describe what a typical session should look like. And what they would say is a problem. They might say, well, kids are standing in lines, or they'll say something like, the coach is too strict, like making them do like regimental stuff instead of kids be to do what they want to do. Not want to do, but in more of a fun atmosphere. Or they would say something like, oh, they're training the kids like little adults instead of allowing them to explore. These are things that, in general, they would say you want to stay away from. Now we're wrapping it up. Now that I said all that, what would I typically see when I get to a typical training session in the Czech Republic? And what is your claim to fame? What are you saying? What are you seeing that you wish everybody, they're not doing it, but if you could wave a magic wand, all the coaches were doing this. What is your view on just youth soccer training in the Czech Republic?
I think that what you explained, that our approach is basically the same. Well, the approach that you are taught at the courses of the Football Association. And if you go for first your license, you can hear exact, like, I don't know, 90% of what you just said. That means ball mastery in the first place in the young age, the technical abilities, passing, then 1v1s, 2v2s. Now the big approach is like from the beginning to get there a lot of real game. So just restrict, give less time to some dribbling around cones, and to give more time to playing against the real opponents, like 3v2s, 2v3s. There is a big deal about playing under, what's the word, undernumbered, when you are just 2 and the opponents are 4, and you need to, typical 3v4 with you try to score 3v4 with the goalkeeper, and a lot of these situations. But basically, I think the approach is the same. You mentioned in the end that you would need to wave a magic wand.
If you could wave a magic wand and everybody was doing, so you've identified something that you would wish that everybody else was doing, but it's not common yet, or common enough.
Yeah, it's not common. I think you identified it really well, and I've never seen a typical training in your country, but in our country, I think, well, these numbers, 80% of coaches would say these rules are correct. Everything you said before, it's correct, and I, as a coach, I want to train like this. Okay, that would be 80%. However, I think just 30 to 40% is able to really do it on a pitch. It's not that easy as it seems. It's from my experience. Like, I'm 10 years at it, and I can see it anywhere. We can talk about it. We can say, okay, that's great. Every training session, it would be like that. But in the end, it's not so easy. If you come to see the session, you can say, okay, where is it? Why are there 10 children standing in that line? And if you told me that the priority is to have a ball and play again and again and again, and at the same time, there's another problem, that even though there are some coaches that really coach it well at the training, okay, everyone has the ball, they really have the technical ability, But then on the weekend there is a match, and they do not let the children to play bravely. They want to win the match, and children then couldn't show what they can do. Then there's a big problem, I think. Well, but I think it's all around the world.
Yeah, and I talk about it. It's a difficult situation for coaches, and I'm going to tell you, and that leads us into the final two questions. One of them is the parental culture around the sport. So in America, again, America's 350 million people. So this is a broad generalization. There's more cultural pressure from the parents, not because the parents are literally pressuring the coach per se, it's because the parents are engaged. So there's just more of that because the parents are very engaged in their child's sport. They want to watch the training in general. They want to see what they're getting. If they pick up on anything real time, they want to fix it. And they constantly analyzing the situation, almost like school. What's the cultural attitudes of the parents in general in the Czech Republic from what you've experienced?
I would say the higher level, the more involved parents are. I think at the highest level, as I mentioned before, Sparta Prague, the parents would be there on every training session, would watch that and would analyze. At our level, which is, I would say, like a middle level, we are grassroots, but higher grassroots level, there would be no parent at the training, literally no one. They bring the kid here and go for shopping or something like that somewhere else, but they come for the match. They won't come to watch the match, which could be a problem sometimes because they are not engaged as much as to know what the children are training and what they should be able to do. But at the same time, they want them to play like a Messi at the match, and they are calling there and shouting, and it's quite difficult for the coach to tell him, "Hey, your Johnny is just 5 years old. He's not Messi yet." So,
and then what about we're wrapping up girls? The short version on how much of the soccer adoption has it been on the female side? So your club, for example, do you have parallel girl teams?
we last year for the first time in our history we founded a girls team, just one girl team, and it's really not normal. There are not girls team, and girls do not play football usually. In our club, out of 250 members, there were 15 girls.
Oh wow! Okay, well
And
that's going to start growing.
It's general. I can say it's general here. It's
now,
a boys' sport.
Okay, and then what are the attitudes around individual training? What are the attitudes around individual training without any help? Like you and your mom or you and your dad go out there every day in the garden and train. And then what are the attitudes around paying someone to individually train your child?
Well, sorry. I hope people will be able to pay for that, but it's not usual. It's not usual. Just the very engaged ones pay for their trainings, and it's like
so let me break this down so we're on the same page. In America, it's very common for a parent to seek someone to work with their child, even at the youngest ages, even before their child shows any potential or even interest. It's not uncommon. I train kids all the time. People call me, they just say, "Hey, I got a child. I want them to learn some soccer stuff. How much do you charge?" This is a very common thing. In the UK, when I lived there, this would be very uncommon. It's only relatively recently that this has started to become a thing. So now that I said that, going back to you.
it's very uncommon. It's uncommon, and usually just the children playing on a high level that want to become professionals, they use it. But at the grassroots level and at the younger ages, it's very uncommon.
Is it uncommon for a parent to train their kids?
Well, it depends. It depends. I cannot say. Well, if they train the kids, usually if the parents are really engaged and they want their child to be very good, they become the official coach in the club, not just kicking with the boy on the garden.
Yeah, and I get that as well. All right. This has been a good one, man. You've been a wealth of information. I'm going to share this into the podcast and in our groups. And if people have specific questions, they'll reach out to me and I'll forward them along to you. You can't cover everything in a podcast, but it's this level of detail that we absolutely love, because what we do is we take this little piece from what you said, this little piece from what you said, and we try to put it together. And I'm sorry about the faux pas on mixing up Croatia with the Czech Republic, because I know you were like, what? But at least that keeps you honest, you know. But it was Croatia. I got to get somebody on from there, because they got this whole thing with all the skills that they say you should be able to benchmark. And I think that really has driven how their coaches view skill acquisition at those younger ages. And as you can see, it's been very successful for them.
Yeah, it's been.
All right. So repeat your name. I don't want to butcher it.
My name, Karel Vlasak.
And what is the name of your club?
Oh, it's it even harder. It's my former club, I need to say. It's not my actual club. Now I'm without a club, and I am starting my own business, like individual trainings and so on. But my former clubs is Šovka Mělník.
See, I wouldn't even get past the pronunciations. So when you start your training and you have your website up and everything, share that with us as well. It'll be something fun for people to see and stay engaged with you, and you never know.
Yeah,
guys,
sure.
My name is Neil Crawford. I'm the founder of Anytime Soccer Training and also the host of the Inside Scoop. We've gone all the way into the Czech Republic. I want to move to Czech Republic now. And I just had a wonderful conversation with Karel, I hope I got it right. And if you have any other questions, feel free to comment below if you're watching this in YouTube or the Facebook group, or you can reach out directly to us and we'll try to answer your questions as best we can. Guys, let's get better together. Thank you.